Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it's time for a review of this new album from C418 called Excursions. And would you like to introduce yourself, Daniel?
Hi, so I'm Daniel. I legally live in Berlin, but I'm often in Austin, Texas. And I make music, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's great. It's great to have Daniel Rosenfeld, aka C418, here with me. Many of you guys might know this video is really cool for me to be able to do, and I'd like to thank Daniel for coming to join me for one of these collaborative reviews. This video is kind of a really exciting thing for me because a lot of you might remember that before I was doing reviews on my channel, I was actually doing like Minecraft commentary way back in the day, like 4 or 5 years ago. So, and C418, Daniel here, did the Minecraft soundtrack, Volume Alpha and Volume Beta. He also did the theme for Beyond Stranger Things, the kind of like Stranger Things after show sort of thing.
Surprisingly
He's also worked
popular.
with,
yeah.
that remix like hit it off. It's insane. But he's also worked with Deadmau5. There's a song on, was it 7 Years of Server Data that was on?
Yeah, was it like an old test that we both did?
But yeah, we're here to talk about this new album. I hit up Daniel after this Excursions album was announced and asked if he'd be down to do a collaborative review, and he was super down with it, so really excited about it. Just getting into like general thoughts about the album, like you normally actually typically on like your Bandcamp have like a little section down below where you explain like every little aspect, and right now it has absolutely nothing. So
yeah.
Let's take this time to kind of give just a brief synopsis of Excursions and what it is to you.
That Bandcamp blog. I try to put that more on my website rather than Bandcamp, and I've just been lazy. So Excursions is like, to me it's an album where like I essentially want to make the same song over and over again. Like I made like one like fairly long, decent song, and I was like, I want to make the same song. But like the idea was that I do it in different locations on the planet and maybe in different mood sets, like when I'm like depressed or something like that. And like to see if it is the same song or if it turns out completely different. And most of the time it was very different.
Yeah, honestly, I would not have picked up on that. Like that wasn't even something that was really going through my mind, that this was, you're saying this is the same song that you've like recreated in different.
I mean, I tried to do that, but of course, like, if my brain wants to deviate, I let it deviate. So, like, I wasn't actually trying to do the exact same thing over and over again, but, like, have the mood set of, like, just do the same song, see what happens. Because,
okay,
like,
cool.
The thing about, like, making music is that it's either, like, people want you to do the same thing over and over again, and, like, they will love that, or, like, it feels kind of like you're cheating or, like, being lazy if you do the same thing. So I, like, force myself to not have that feeling of like I'm cheating, so keep doing the same thing. Just
do it on purpose, and that'll solve all the issues. I went and I don't know. I guess I didn't really get like a solid definition of what Excursions is. How Merriam-Webster defines that is a going out or forth or an expedition. Mm-hmm. So how does that kind of tie into the album for you?
That makes a lot of sense because I did record the album on like maybe 5, 6, 7 different countries. Part of it is because like I had a pretty bad breakup, and like I decided to like visit friends, and like one of those things that they keep telling you if you have a bad breakup is to keep forcing yourself to do things. So I forced myself to make music. I don't think that actually helped me through the breakup, but it helped me make a pretty decent album.
One thing I did want to ask you that I kind of spaced on is like you've got a lot of different albums. If you can include like all the compilations and everything, I think you're up to like 15 now or something like that.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah, it's some insane amount. But I think this, if you consider just like the major releases that are on Apple Music, Spotify, all that, I think this is your 7th like studio album. When I was kind of thinking about like this album and what I was going to talk about, this is the first studio album since 72 Minutes of Fame that like is completely unrelated to like any other project, any soundtrack, any like remixes of anything. This is just like a C418 album.
I guess you're right. It's been that long, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, as much as I really, I don't know if you've been able to see my review of 148, but I really enjoyed that album a lot. Even that album had like a couple like Minecraft remixes.
Yeah, it was basically like a collection of like almost like 9-year-old things, and I just never found the space for it, and so I tried to make it fit together, and it was kind of a weird smorgasbord that sort of works and sort of doesn't. So yeah, I guess Excursions is actually a completely focused project compared to that.
I'd almost call this album like it's just C418 music. It's art for art's sake. You know, you went in to actually make like a singular project with this, and that's really cool to me. Also, it's I really enjoy the fact that it's a gapless album because
yeah, you can't really do those anymore, can you?
yeah, it isn't a very common thing, and even in your discography, like there, obviously 148 had a bit of that, and the first Minecraft Volume Alpha had a little bit of like gaplessness, but this album is like a true like cohesive gapless album.
Yeah, you have to be really careful with that nowadays because with the rise of streaming, nobody actually, or like I'm saying nobody, but like there's a very small percentage of people that listen from an album from A to Z, right? Because most people actually get their discovery weekly and like just shuffle play everything. So I tried really hard to make that album listenable, even if it's unshuffled. Even though like the gaps make no real sense because it's like random noise at the beginning and end, at least it doesn't sound stupid.
Another thing I wanted to just ask you regarding this album is like, who are some big musical inspirations for like what you were trying to do here?
I think like a long time ago I made this mixtape where I just tried to like get like house music and like speed it down that it like 120 beats per minute songs and like stretch it down so that it's like 100 beats per minute and like see if that actually makes sense at all still. And like I did that with like 20, 30 songs and something like that, and like most of them still work pretty fine. And I wanted to see if I can actually make that kind of slowed down music for reals, like on an album, and like have it not be boring, even though it is that slow. That was very interesting. I guess an obvious thing is maybe what was like deadmau5's Red album, that one.
Like random album title?
Yeah, I think
I was actually kind of getting those vibes.
Yeah, because Joel he doesn't make that music anymore because I guess it's not commercially viable as much, or he lost interest. One of the two things. I would say it's not as commercially viable as like more modern poppy music. Which, you know, maybe it's stupid, but I'm not looking for commercial viability.
Yeah, no. Though I did want to say in regards to deadmau5, a lot of these songs, you said like it's a lot of like housey, just like really slowed down. Mm-hmm. I was kind of getting those vibes because it was like I was listening to some of these songs and it felt like deadmau5 style progressive house music, but then it's just like way slow, slower. It's like, what would you even call this?
I don't know. I mean, I know that there's like only 2 songs that are above 100 beats per minute. So that was definitely an intentional part on my own, just to see like, can I like make this cohesive and fun? People call it synthwave, but I don't think that's true because synthwave is trying to have like that 80s vibe, which I am not even doing in any way.
One thing I did want to note is that the marketing for this album, at least when I saw you like posting on the Facebook and everything, like the Billboard article and whatnot that went in prior to this album, is that, well, for one, this was like probably the most heaviest marketed C418 album I've ever seen, because I've been following your stuff since I started, playing Minecraft.
Yeah.
And like it's like with all the previous albums, I didn't even know about 148 until like 4 months after it released, and I was just like randomly checking your Bandcamp, and then like every other album kind of in between, maybe with exception of one, because I know that like a lot of the promo for that had to do with the Minecraft documentary.
Quite literally what happened is I hired a person, I gave somebody money to call press people.
Amazing.
That's kind of what happened. Like I essentially hired a manager who like is trying to like help me out with releases like that, because when around time of like 148 I was kind of like, I don't know how to sell music, so I'll just hit publish and see what happens, and obviously not much happened. So this time like I got a manager who was actually like trying to like see like how does it make sense to sell Daniel's music and that kind of stuff, and we are experimenting with different publishers and like seeing like what is good, what is gonna suck for us. And it costs way more money, but but I think it actually like at least it gets the word out way more, and like especially people that haven't heard of me before, like not just like the people that know of me of Minecraft. Like we're trying to figure out like if my music that is just me is actually makes sense to sell, And this is actually the grand experiment, and we're gonna keep doing it with whatever next release I'm gonna come up with.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about with those articles that were getting posted and everything is that almost all of them were given the title of like Minecraft composer C418.
Yeah.
It was just interesting seeing that. Like obviously you have to make some kind of connection so people will be like, oh, I know that music. Like that's kind of iconic. So yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that it went for that when in reality you've had so many albums in between like the Minecraft stuff, and you have so much music that's come out in between like that time frame.
I liked Boing Boing because Boing Boing was like, this is the first album that they made outside of Minecraft, and I was like, that's not true, but if you want to sell that sounds like a cool story to me. I don't know. It's just like really difficult, especially like for musicians who are most prevalent in video games. Like getting the word out that like they also make music that is normal is actually really hard. One example would probably be the guy Thomas Dvorak who made the music for Machinarium.
Okay.
Like people know his music from like Machinarium and like Samaros and stuff like that, but nobody really knows his actual artist name, which is Floex, I think. It's really difficult to make the connection from A to B to people, and like I guess that's what my manager was trying to experiment with and to see like what is gonna land.
I did want to note something funny with that is though like with those articles it doesn't necessarily, it seems more like they're trying to just like make a connection to the readers and everything that they'll be able to understand.
Yeah.
But this album actually Excursions as a whole like reminds me more of like the Minecraft OST than like any other music that's come out kind of in that time frame. And not necessarily just the Minecraft OST. A lot of the albums got a very similar style. It's very down-tempo, ambient, very piano-centric, a lot of like orchestral elements in there. The song TXL actually reminded me a lot of Moog City, just kind of that ARP that's going on during the entire track. But I wanted, or did you have something to say in regard to that?
That reminds me. I actually intentionally tried to like have as little cohesive melody as possible. So like most of the melody is actually being pushed by arpeggiators rather than actual like piano simple melodies, and that is too simplistic for some. But I actually appreciate the challenge of like let's not write a melody and see if that actually works. And that's been really difficult.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to note in that regard, though, is even though like this album, I'd say reminds me more of like Minecraft Volume Alpha than any of the other in-between albums, it's not just like Minecraft that this music necessarily reminds me of. I feel like Excursions as a whole, and it kind of makes sense with the theme you're going with, trying to recreate a song in a bunch of different ways. It feels like a big, like, grand culmination of really everything you've done, like, as a musician up to this point. Like, this is, it's you in, like, all regards, I feel like.
It's really funny to me. I talked to one of my good friends, Davey Breeden. I'm at his office right now. And he was like, I gave that album to him, like, early, and he was, like, he came back a month later and was like, Daniel, this album is basically you, and that was his review.
A lot of the, I guess like the darker, heavier kind of songs like Nest and Figure 8 reminded me a lot of the stuff that was on 148. Even maybe even some of the softer, more ambient tunes reminded me of like the stuff on 1 a little bit. It just felt like I was listening to like all of your albums at once, really, like just like kind of getting through it, which is cool. I wanted to say my favorite type of song that kind of was found on this album are the very long, very progressive songs. I gotta say Thunderbird is phenomenal. Probably I'd say it's my favorite song on this album. I really like those songs that mix in the ambient elements, the progressive elements, the housey stuff, and then has like the orchestral stuff too, like the soft piano melodies, kind of everything, like a mixed bag, and then you kind of make it blend together. That was probably my favorite type of song.
I would like to call songs that like are that long, like I just obsess over it, and like I don't actually know if it makes any sense outside of my ears. So I'm glad there's people that actually come back and say, yeah, it's pretty good.
In that regard, like what were some of your favorite songs to make, like on this album?
To make, I think Figure 8, because I was fed up with, like at that point, I was fed up with making songs like that. So I guess that song was kind of like a fuck it, I don't give a shit anymore approach to the same idea. And that was kind of refreshing and like like a little bit of a kickstart to like finish the rest of the album.
Yeah, Figure Eight's kind of insane. Like just the raw like heaviness of it really caught me off guard the first time listening to it, but it's good. One thing that I did want to note before I get into like some other positives is that like at least in the beginning of this album, and once again in regards to Minecraft, I don't want to keep referencing Minecraft because you're probably tired of that by now. But it kind of gave me like I feel like I'm in Minecraft in real life kind of feel, because it's got those nature like soundscapes going on in the background, yet it has like the same musical style going on as in Minecraft. So it's like when I think back of the days that I used to play that and just enjoy kind of exploring and whatnot, you'd hear like the Minecraft soundscapes and everything and like the little mob noises and whatnot. And then this album, at least in the beginning, reminded me a lot of that, because you can hear the animal noises like the water and like the music going over that. So I don't know if that was intentional, but I got some really good nostalgia.
I don't think it was intentional, but I guess maybe it's like a return to minimalism kind of thing, because I was like being intentionally like low and vague as possible in some of these songs. So I can see how there's a correlation there, because I also wanted to be as minimal as possible with Minecraft. Yeah,
but some other positives I wanted to get into. The mixing on this album is absolutely pristine, like just great mixing of electronic music. You have a great use of dynamics here. I love how you start off the album with just being really, really soft, and you kind of build up. It's really rare when you find albums that happen to do this. Everyone wants to be just as loud and obnoxious as possible.
Yeah, I really just dislike the brick walling. So like I like to have like a headroom of like 8 to 10 decibels, which is too much for modern music, I think, especially for radio plays. But I just want that. I'm so annoyed by like having everything to be the same volume.
Oh yeah. I noted that this album is simultaneously something that's great to like fall asleep to. It's very relaxing, but it's also something that like is dynamic and technical enough that you can sit down and listen to it critically, I suppose, which is like
it's interesting that you mentioned the calm aspect of it, because I always envisioned the album as being fairly aggressive. But then like I talked to like a guy who was like very philosophical and psychological and that kind of stuff, and like we talked about the aspect how like I added like the sound of like birds and ambience in like every single song. And that brought me back to that research that was done, where like if you added the sound of, I don't know, white noise, or the sound of like fire crackling or birds on top of any music of any sort, it immediately sounds pleasant and better. And that goes back to basically like in the womb, like as a fetus, you listen to your mom's blood rushing, and that I guess is something of a calming thing to babies. And that kind of doesn't go away, and that's also kind of why we as humans appreciate vinyl and the sound of the crackling of dust. And it's like subconsciously pleasant. So like I try to make this like somewhat aggressive, not very happy album, and then like I have the sound of birds chirping, and suddenly it's not as aggressive anymore. It's very weird and surprising to me.
In terms of like me being able to fall asleep to this type of music, it's not like I'm trying to listen to some of like the later, more like aggressive songs like Figure Eight. It's like I'm usually out by like the second track. It's something like this. So it's like the title track straight up puts me to sleep. So I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying like, if I want to sleep, then I can listen to that. And
it's kind of the point too, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I wanted to ask you about the airport tracks, because there's like, you know, TXL and the others. Did that just have to go along with like the theme of the album, like with you traveling and hanging out with friends and whatnot?
Yeah, I think those tracks are actually like pointers of like where I was at the time. Like a lot of like the Hilversum Airport, Schiphol Airport. I mean, yeah, I am a lot there because that's like the main Europe hub. I'm often in Austin, so there's that too. Yeah, like all of those airports are things like places that I frequent a lot over the year, and they correlate to like the kind of music I've made in between.
I wanted to also give a quick note, because you made the artwork for this album, right?
Yeah.
What were you, I kind of noticed that the artwork looks really dark and dystopian and kind of creepy. What was your thought, like kind of trying to create that?
it's the contrast between what you hear and what you see. I think I wanted it to sound like forestry stuff, like as like you're going through the jungle or whatever. But in actuality, it's music that I recorded in like big ass cities, like sprawling metropolis. Like I made some of it in New York, which is like one of the loudest places on the planet. So that is to me the contrast of like the things that you hear, because like in actuality this is where I made it, so all those collages are the places I've been in while I was recording this album.
So like the artwork you're saying is it's like pictures of the places that you recorded?
They're like a weird smorgasbord of like big skyscrapers that I essentially just went like from city to city and like made as much pictures as possible of the buildings and didn't just mangle them.
I kind of thought it was just like one picture that you kind of distorted, but that's cool to know. That
once the physical versions come out, there's a lot of pictures. Like it started out as like one picture of like some like building front in Norway, and then like it was just too boring, and then like I decided, how about I just like add the other cities that I've been in. So like it is quite a lot of random buildings mixed in.
I did want to ask you though, before I give a rating or anything like that, because that's usually what I do. Do you have any plans? What are the next steps for C418? Where do you go from here?
The next steps, I will actually probably focus on being with Davey Green's company, a guy who made Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide. And we are slowly trying to make a company and see like if we can actually do that, if we're good at that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, I might try to figure out if I can tour. Like with Excursions, we're looking into like managers that like are really good at that kind of stuff. Especially like me, I am not very much of a known entity, so like we have to see like where do I make sense in a tour aspect, because like I can't just go from club to club, because that makes absolutely no sense, because I'm a nobody in that aspect. And then I don't know, I'll just make more music. It's kind of the thing I'm good at.
Absolutely, man. Going into just what I think about overall in this album, like I said, it feels to me like a culmination of really a lot of things that are great about your music. I didn't necessarily like, I even though I love songs like Thunderbird, it's not like certain melodies, obviously you said melodies weren't really a big part of this album, but it's not like there aren't like those big like catchy melodies like they were on the Minecraft soundtrack that are going to be sticking with me specifically, like those types of melodies and whatnot for like years to come. But this is something that I can go back to and listen to and appreciate all of your music in really all aspects, and for that reason I think this album is really solid. Yeah, so I'd probably, if I had to give this a rating, I'd probably go I think probably the same thing I gave 148 for different reasons, but which was a 8 out of 10. Like I said, really solid album. For everyone watching this video, I'm going to have a Spotify link so you can go check out the album for yourself if you haven't yet. And if you've enjoyed C418's music in the past, definitely give this one a listen. Especially, I don't know, if you've only enjoyed his stuff via Minecraft, I think this one will be enjoyable. And if you haven't checked out his other stuff, definitely do, because he's got a pretty solid discography. But anyway, I want to thank Daniel again for joining me for this review. This may be the biggest review I've ever done. So
nice. Thanks for
I'm
having
excited
me.
about it. Yeah, of course. I'm excited to get this video out. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the review. Definitely check out that album. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.